to have done with architecture as usual. What is under scrutiny here is the in situ approach to architecture along with the technological metaphor of brick on brick. It's the very approach that assigns souls to places, and requires that they should be echoed by incoming buildings. Layer upon layer, every new building has to echo all that preceded it. But the fact is, what started as logistical and technological limitation has evolved into a code of ethics and theory of aesthetics. The underpinning argument is as far back as the Gothic revival of the 19th century, namely the architectural theory of Ruskin. It is an orthodox take on architectural theory where aesthetics and authenticity are wrapped in transcendentalism. For that matter, it reads as absolutely universal. Ruskin's work is also a testament of how impossible it is to stand the test of time if codification is what you are after. How many of his 7 lamps of architecture are still illuminating today? Ruskin legitimized his code by lending architecture to a purpose other than its natural one. Though the way the 7 lamps are composed doesn't suggest a certain hierarchy, but the first lamp is surely significant. The other 6 are unnecessary unless one takes the first lamp for granted. Ruskin, by his first lamp, Sacrifice, portraits the act of building as a form of spiritual exchange. From builders to society to nature to higher values, architecture has to stand for everything but not its natural purpose. By today's standards, this code would seem as a form of architectural communism. But in that time it was composed to make Gothic seem as the safest choice of style. Which brings me to an argument similar to the Aachen argument. Was Ruskin reflecting on a style once popular and he wished to revive? Or was he prescribing a new one? Style before code was also prominent in 20th century architectural theory. When Le Corbusier composed his 5 points of architecture, he was engaged in similar practice. At the outset, Le Corbusier's code comes across as trying to restore architecture's natural purpose, functionality. But once the code is being followed, the architecture that would result is one having a particular early Corbusian look. And once he stylistically moved to a different preference, brutalism, immediately the 5 points code was dismissed. Other modernist architects took a different approach to architectural theory. Aphorism is a common and influential form of theory in architecture. This concise form is unspecific when it comes to style. Famous aphorisms such as, "less is more" or "form follows function" indicate methodology rather than style. However, it's not impossible to establish which aphorism behind which style. The association between "less is more" and minimalism in architecture is a good example. In other words, an aphorism too is product of an advanced style preference. This thesis doesn't contest the above observation. As a matter of fact, it fully recognizes the subordination of codes to style, character and identity. But it challenges architecture as usual for not admitting it. It is also to draw attention to an even higher authority, construction technologies. The shift from Ruskin's to the modernist view has an untold story so far. It's the shift in structural system from load-bearing walls to frame. But because the approach to construction remained in situ throughout, the tendency to codify practices dominated architecture as usual. The point this thesis wants to make is to undermine codification, or at least to destabilize the existing code. Loftcube opens the door on such a debate. Here one finds a liberal mode that gives prominence to the thing itself and its user. In Loftcube, users are empowered when given the tools to produce their own authentic designs. Theoretically, the overthrow of the in situ approach made that possible. The question Loftcube poses is, can conventional code withstand the pressure exerted by this new spirit or empowerment of the user? But Loftcube is not just any prefabricated building. It has a peculiar character. It was impossible for me to process it without giving it a type of some sort. In the beginning the term cube seemed handy. But then I came across an image of an unusual structure. It was a perforated thin concrete shell by Kazuya Morita. The work is titled Pod for All Occasions. The term pod seemed interesting. But because the structure wasn't designed to be airtight, I didn't pay attention. The next stop was at an airtight pod. This one was in timber and to be used as garden office space. What alerted me to the term is that the pod's manufacturer goes by the name Archipod. Referring back to LoftCube, I saw an additional advantage in adopting the term pod as the name for this typology. It's not the mere resemblance with form and the aspect of containment. I was intrigued by how could pods be so undecided though they seem to be complete organ. It's like to use his body without organs, an object having an infinite number of potentials. Prelude to Master Thesis written by Samuel Offey 2012 November Examiners Board Lincoln University UK